the war in Ukraine was not inevitable. It was the direct result of a decades-long strategic blunder by the United States and its European allies, the relentless eastward expansion of NATO toward Russia's borders, culminating in the push to bring Ukraine into the Western military alliance. Russia views Ukraine not as a foreign country, but as a core part of its historical, cultural, and strategic sphere. To Moscow, a NATO-aligned Ukraine is an existential threat, akin to China placing missiles in Mexico or Russia deploying troops in Canada. The invasion of February 2022, while a clear violation of international law, was a predictable reaction to Western provocation. If NATO had not moved toward Ukraine, the country would likely still be intact today, including Crimea, within its pre-2014 borders. The West didn't just provoke Russia, it deliberately turned Ukraine into a sacrificial proxy. Ukraine is not a functioning state. It is economically non-functional, politically fractured, and systemically corrupt from top to bottom. Its leadership serves not the Ukrainian people but foreign patrons. The president is not a democratically accountable leader, but a figurehead propped up to keep the war going, no matter the cost in Ukrainian lives. Billions in Western aid have vanished into private accounts, luxury estates, and offshore holdings, while ordinary soldiers are sent to die in a war with no path to victory. And that war is already lost. Despite official narratives of resilience, the military reality is clear. Ukraine has been defeated. Russian forces outnumber Ukrainian troops by 3-1 on average, and by as much as 8-1 in key sectors like Avdiivka. Russia dominates in artillery, glide bombs, and increasingly in drone warfare. Ukrainian desertion is rampant, tens of thousands every month, and recruitment has collapsed. Some estimates place Ukrainian casualties at nearly 2 million dead or wounded, with little chance of recovery due to poor medical infrastructure. In contrast, Russian losses, while significant, are sustainable, and most wounded return to duty. The last major defensive lines are crumbling. Cities are falling. The path to Odessa is opening. This is no longer a war of defense, it is a slow-motion slaughter. Diplomacy offers no escape. The West's proposed peace plans are fantasies. They demand that Ukraine retain a massive army, 600,000 to 800,000 troops, capable of rearming as a future anti-Russia proxy. Moscow will never accept this. Russia's demands are non-negotiable: permanent Ukrainian neutrality, no NATO membership, recognition of Russian control over Crimea and the Donbass, and strict limits on Ukraine's military. These are not signs of maximalism. They are the minimum conditions for Russia to feel secure on its western border. As long as the West refuses to acknowledge this, there will be no peace, only battlefield resolution. This war is more than a regional tragedy. It is a symptom of a deeper crisis: the decline of Western hegemony. The sanctions imposed on Russia in 2022, especially the seizure of $300 billion in central bank reserves, shattered global trust in the US dollar. From Riyadh to Brasilia to Beijing, nations now see the dollar not as a safe harbor, but as a trapdoor that can be switched off at will. The result is rapid de-dollarization, with BRICS plus nations moving toward gold-backed trade currencies and alternative financial systems. Meanwhile, the West's military model is obsolete. Carrier groups and mass armies are suicidal in an age of precision missiles, space surveillance, and drone swarms. Yet the US spends over $1 trillion a year on a military designed for a world that no longer exists. Europe is morally and strategically bankrupt. It sacrificed hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians for geopolitical posturing while refusing to pay the economic price of victory. It has no coherent strategy, no military capacity, and no will to act. The United States, meanwhile, is trapped by its own delusions. Leaders repeat false intelligence, claim Russia is losing despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, and pretend that victory is still possible, if only more Ukrainians die. The only rational path forward is immediate peace. End all military aid to Ukraine. Cut off the current regime. Urge Kyiv to sue for terms with Moscow. Accept that Russia will control a significant portion of Ukraine, perhaps 40% or more, but that a frozen conflict is preferable to total collapse. Russia has no interest in conquering all of Ukraine. It seeks a neutral buffer, not an insurgency. The alternative, prolonging the war in hopes of a miraculous turnaround, risks dragging NATO into direct conflict with a nuclear power, based on nothing but fantasy. This war was a tragic error born of hubris, ignorance, and ideological blindness. The cost has been immense: a destroyed nation, hundreds of thousands dead, and the accelerated decline of Western influence. The world's center of gravity is shifting east to where manufacturing, markets, and stability reside. The West now faces a choice: cling to a dying unipolar order or adapt to a multipolar world with realism, humility, and peace. The clock is ticking. Ukraine is finished. The question is whether the West will learn or repeat its mistakes elsewhere.